me just do this. So, my name is Nakia, and we're going to talk about today about if you stopped reaching out, would your friendship survive? Okay. And we're going to be showing visuals and everything. And so, yeah, my name is Nakia. A little bit about me is I'm very passionate. Hey, everyone, how are you? Let me know where you're from and all that stuff, all that good stuff. And I'm going to get right into it. So, yeah, so my name is Nakia. And I basically came from, I would say, a fairly rough background, where basically I had to learn to survive, almost went homeless, all that stuff. And I basically had to basically learn how to have my own business. And I ended up doing I ended up selling over $1 million in product. And then I went on to do like having a marketing agency. And then I shifted to what I do now. And so I basically went through life, basically, um, being lonely and not having a lot of friends. What is this? I went through life being lonely, not having a lot of friends, and not being very comfortable in my solitude. And just not being comfortable, even though I had a very bubbly personality. I just didn't know how to navigate that. And so I basically learned how to like make new friends, especially as I got older. And learning to be my solitude and learning to be very solid at where I was. So that's where I'm at right now. And I've learned a lot of things along the way. So now I share that type of information, just helping, more so women reconnect with themselves, just women empowerment, having honest conversations, and just going from there. So my question for you is, have you had a friendship become one-sided? Has that happened to you? And how did you feel? That would be my question for you. And we're gonna get started. So basically, I saw this thread. So let me see if I can. Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's see if I can add it here. So I'm gonna add a visual here. So what really inspired this was I saw this thread, and if not, I could just read it to you. So guys, bear with me. I'm doing both. We're doing both TikTok today, and YouTube Live. Okay, so let me put this in a poll as usual. So I don't think I can do it in TikTok, guys. So it was just, have you had friendships be one sided? Have you had friendships? Hold on. Become one sided. That's what it is. And you can put yes or no in the chat. And it always gives an idea to show like, hey, you're not alone type thing. Hey, Manuel, how are you? So nice to see you guys. Definitely put in the chat where you're from. But yeah, so nice to see you. Okay. And have you, so this is where I came, like, this is my experience for this, is let's talk about, the first point is going to be, have you went above and beyond, right, for someone? And let me read this thread. So before we get back, let me get back to that. So let me share the green screen. I don't know how to do it on TikTok yet. So, okay. So this was the thread I saw. So I'm going to just read it to you guys, and go from there. So I saw this on, this is from someone's comment. So it said, being the child-free friend sucks. She was like, I helped pay for the new apartment, and I helped with the wedding. I met her at the hospital when she had concerns about pregnancy. And I hosted the baby shower in my home so she didn't have to spend money. Okay. And I gifted hundreds of dollars worth of baby things. I drove an hour twice a week to visit because I understood that a new baby is scary and stressful. And I brought food and feel goods, and I showered her with love and gifts on her birthday and Mother's Day. And so I'm wondering, like, how many of you guys have basically over delivered in a friendship? Because I read this and I was like, dang, like this seems so relatable, right? Where a friendship can start off where you guys are all on the same page. The friendship starts off where, you're feeling like you're getting some reciprocal energy. Oh, this little AI. Um, so comment if you ever felt that way where it was one sided. I'm curious. Put a one in the chat if you've ever felt like you've had a friendship where it was one sided. So yeah, so I read that and I was like, oh my god, this is so relatable because she was probably thinking, right? Which we all do. We go into these friendships and I think sometimes we go in, we have this idea in our mind where we're like, oh, this friendship is reciprocal, right? Like this friendship is ideal. This friendship is the like I would do anything for that friend because you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna get this back in return, right? Put a one in the chat if you ever had a friendship that was very one sided. Okay, for the new people who are coming in, and so she probably had that thought. And so she did all these things, right? Like you hear what she said here. She gifted hundreds of dollars, like, drove an hour, like, twice a week. Like that was nuts. Like when I read all this stuff. And yes, but I'm doing two lives. Remember that. So there's other people elsewhere. And I remember just thinking like, um, hey, give me a second. Okay, one second, guys. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. All right. Okay, so let's get back to it. And she probably felt like it was reciprocal, okay? She thought um that she was going to get it back and she spent so much time just pouring into that friendship because she probably thought that that person was going to be there for her no matter how, like she probably thought that that person was going to be there for her no matter what. So she came with that energy where she was like, okay, I'm actually going to be for that with that person, right? And I remember like this was so relatable because I remember I had a friendship that I admired, like, and you could definitely put in the chat like press a two if you've ever had a friendship that you admired. Okay. And so I had a friendship that I admired. And I remember when I first met this friendship, I was like, oh, like, I would go above and beyond for her because she would for me. And I remember like I would like we would go places like, like farther out places and I would pick her up and I would like bring her back to her house because so that we would go in one car. I would be always the one that was calling. But here's the thing is like I didn't actually notice that I was the one that was calling, right? Like I was the only one calling. Like let me know if any of you guys experienced that where you were like basically like you had a friendship but you didn't realize that you were the one that was doing all the work, right? Can we all relate to that? And um anyways, and then I would notice that I was the one that picking up all the phone calls. Like I was basically essentially doing the work and trying to connect. And I noticed there was times that when I then tried to, you know, meet up or something like that, like she would either cancel or it was like some like shady stuff. And then I'd always try and follow up all that stuff. And here's the thing, it's like, and I realized that sometimes when you're going above and beyond with someone, it's like you're coming from a place where you're like, oh, like this is the friend, like this is my friend. Like I'm gonna do anything for this person because they are a good friend to you. But little do you know, sometimes like friendships are um they're always, it's like sometimes the friendship is one-sided and you don't even notice because it's like you have blinders on. It's like you're in this relationship, and it's like you're in a relationship that you're in love with this guy, but you don't realize like how bad you're being treated because you're so mesmerized. You have rose colored glasses, guys. Like that's literally what's happening. And so you are doing, like, you're all in it. You're putting your 100%, you know what I mean, into that friendship. And it's like you don't realize it because you're like, only until you take a step back and you're like, wait, I did all this stuff for her. And then the story continues on, okay? And let me read the next one here because it's good stuff. And then she goes on to say, and this is from a thread post, by the way. I'm basing this off of a thread post because this was someone else's experience, and I was like, okay, how many people, how many of us can relate to this? So I did all of this because while I'm child free, um, I'm not silly. Like having a newborn is hard, and I wanted her to feel loved and appreciated. Okay. And maybe just she thought she was a little scared, and she does have a good support system with her family on top of that. And I really did love her. Okay. Then she says, and now 2 years later, I'm met with nothing. Okay. How many of you guys have put in so much in a relationship? Like a friendship, okay? We're talking about friendships. And then it's like you feel like you have gotten nothing back. Like it's gone nowhere. Okay? And then she's like, I really did, yeah, love her. She's like, now 2 years later, I'm now met with nothing. And she's like, I only got like a coloring book from her for my birthday. And she met me halfway once for breakfast in those 2 years. And I was like, geez, right? You know, sometimes it made me think too, like sometimes being like people who are child free, because I am child free, it could sometimes, like, naturally it could sometimes cause you to take on a load that you're not even meant to take the load on. You don't even realize it, right? And you don't even realize that you're taking on a load. And like sometimes you're met with friends who think you have time. Hey, how are you? What is it? Og Praise? What your name is? Yeah, so sometimes you don't realize it. Like you don't so I remember having this friendship where, so every time she would tease me because I was single, didn't have kids, and she had kids. And I remember she would make little jokes like, oh, you have a lot of more time than I do, and all this stuff. And I remember thinking like, but like, do I really? Because I'm still doing other things, right? And I remember thinking like, okay, well, I'm still doing other things. It's not because I'm single. It means like I have all the time in the world, right? And this was a person that would constantly like, like complain about her job and like how she doesn't have a lot of time and all that stuff. Um, Hold on. And and she would complain with her job, and I remember I found myself having lack of sympathy because I believe people make their own choices. Like people make their own choices when it comes to, you decide like on your time and the type of job you want. And I didn't have that type of sympathy, and I was like, well, you chose this type of job, so you knew what it came with, like even though you have kids, right? Like just like I chose a job, and like I chose my time and like how I wanted to use it. And you chose to have kids and I didn't, right? Yeah. And I remember one time she said it in front of someone, and they basically had to pull me aside and was like, I don't think she should say stuff like that. And I was like, huh, I never thought of it. Because at first I was like, well, she's just joking. And they're like, well, because like being single doesn't necessarily mean like you have all the time in the world, right? And I remember when that person brought it to light, and I was just reading this, And it's the fact that she brought up that she was child free, right? And so she had time to like pour into this friendship. But she found that like when her friend basically ended up, you know, like getting into married life, having kids, like basically the friend kind of like slowly disappeared, right? And one thing I noticed is a lot of us we aren't struggling because we don't know what to do. Like I don't believe she didn't know what to do. Okay. But it's like we struggle and we spend time, right, listening to others, doing like people pleasing, doing things that we think should be in a certain way. Like we spend time like acting in a friendship that in a way that we think should be acted, right? When in fact that's not always the case. Hey everyone that's drop in, feel free to comment below, right? If you've ever been in a friendship that was one-sided, that's huge, guys. Like, and yeah, so what was I saying? So yeah, so we're acting in a way that we think we should act. And if there comes a time where we stop listening to ourselves. Like we start telling that little voice to be quiet. We're like, oh, be quiet, right? Because we're doing things we think are the way we should do things. Like just like that woman, like if you look in the screenshot, right, or that I read for TikTok, I'm reading it to you basically, is like she did everything she thought was right. But was it actually right? Right? And so the goal is that you want to start listening to yourself, right? So that's why I created the build where we are like sessions, right? Which was to help women reconnect with themselves and grow and then start building a life around what people think and what people think you should be doing. Like that's really a key thing. And basically building a life that you actually love where when you wake up in the morning, you're like, dang, I'm looking forward to this. Like you're not like dreading, you're not dreading life when you wake up in the morning. You're not dragging your feet and all that good stuff, right? You're building a life that's for you and not so not so revolving around other people. Right? And I think that's like a key thing that like sometimes we miss. Is we're building a life that you don't realize it sometimes, right? So that's my goal is to remind you to build a life that you want to build, right? That you love doing. But yeah, anyways, we'll talk about that later. And so let's talk about the next one here. So I'm gonna read. So I already read the next comment. Um, I want to talk about a distance in a relationship, and I wonder, do you think distance is normal in a friendship? If any of you guys like, were you ever close to a friend and you thought the distance start to separate? And I understand like people can get caught up in their lives. Like people like stuff can happen, like, you know, things can get in the way, family, kids, if they have kids, I don't know, their relationships. But like I feel like sometimes it's almost selfish. Right. Especially if you're not communicating. Like I think communication is so important, especially when you are especially when you've been close before. I feel like it's hurtful. Like especially if you've been super close and then all of a sudden the dynamic changes and you don't know why. I feel like sometimes it can leave you feeling like, okay, what the heck happened here? Like we were close and then all of a sudden we weren't. And it's like, what happened? Right? And I feel like a lot of the times we can start pointing the fingers on ourselves. So when there's some type of distance, because like when she said too, like, you know, 2 years later, I've met with nothing. Like I hardly seen her. Like that's what she was saying in this thread comment. And I remember thinking, like, dang, like that's so hard, right? Like especially when things don't go the way that you want it to go. Yes. Yeah.
Asking if you have a space for like a charge, my charger for 5 seconds because the battery just died.
But in here, you can bring it here. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, like a plug.
Yeah.
You could probably just put it there. Is there a plug there?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. Let's just put this.
Just close the door. Just close the door. Thanks. Sorry, guys. Mechanic. Okay. So yeah. So in this scenario, so where was I? I was talking about distance. This is very interesting. So I was talking about distance. So sometimes, right? Apart from that, so another point was too is sometimes people can forget what that you've done for them, right? And I think people get like very like mesmerized in their lives that eventually you're like, what happened? Where were they? And right, and then before you know it, you're looking and you're like, the time has gone by. Like I remember I had a friend like that where we were super close, and then she had stuff that happened to her, and then all of a sudden things just shifted, and I was like, okay, what just happened here? Um, and like, why did this happen? And it's like, and then it's never the same. I feel like when there's distance, like unless there's effort between the two people, it's very hard to like get it back to where you were close before. Let me know in the comments, like if you've been through that. Like put it to in the comments if you've had experience where you're a closer friend and then all of a sudden like you guys just kind of like distance yourself. Like all of a sudden it wasn't the same. Um, and I'd be curious to know if you think distance is normal in a friendship to happen. Um, I personally think like it should be intentional. I think like it should be something that's monitored. So like if there's distance that happens in the friendship, I feel like that should be your sign to catch it and then bring yourselves together again, if that makes sense. Um, so silence in a friendship. And this brought up exactly that when she said, "Oh, after 2 years, like nothing's happening." And my question to you is, it's like, when should you let a friendship go? Like, when do you feel that you should end a friendship? And I've gotten to that moment where I've tried to even repair a friendship, and I got into a point where I was like, I wonder if this friendship is no longer serving me. Like sometimes I'll ask myself those questions, like, is this friendship serving me? Right? Is it doing me any good right now? And I feel like once I start having doubts with a friendship, that's my time to reassess friendships. And it looks like so we had 3 votes for have you had friendships become one sided, and we had 3 people, which it just shows that like it happens to a lot of people. Like it's pretty common. But here's what I feel like: as you change the way you treat yourself, you'll start to treat friendships differently. I believe that like when it becomes one sided, it means that there's a part of you that's giving yourself away. There's a part of you that's you're no longer nurturing yourself. You're no longer putting yourself first. Okay? It's like it comes to a point where it's like you're basically losing yourself in a friendship. And I find out like when I'm losing myself in a friendship, that's my time to reassess things. Like that's my time where I'm like, guys, like where I'm like, I want this friendship worth it, because it's like when I feel like I'm like putting a lot of energy and a lot of energy is being taken, and like that friendship is not giving me life. Then I start questioning the friendship, because I'm like, do I really need this friendship? And it's hard because if you really admire that friendship and you love it, like it's going to be very hard to do, right? Like you'll probably be just holding, sometimes maybe even holding on to a string. Like you're holding on to the last bit of that friendship because you're like, I really love this person. I really love this friendship. But it's like, how do you let it go? Right? Especially when you like are very close, you've been very close with that person, or you've been friends for years. Like it's easier said than done. right? You see a lot of people like talk about, oh, just let your friend go. But it's like when you've been friends with them and you have all these memories, sometimes it's very hard to let your friendships go, right? Um, and sometimes your friendship can be built on an old version of you. So that whole friendship may not serve you. So like I think a lot of people go into friendships where they're thinking, "Oh, we're gonna be friends forever," or it's like we're gonna like you may go through milestones together, like friendships, graduation, like and onwards, right? Whatever that is, like going on trips together. But sometimes that's not the case. Like any of you guys have outgrown friendships before? Put it two in the chat if that's happened to you, where you've outgrown a friendship, right? And you sometimes you're just different people, right? Friendships can change. Like what was not toxic before could turn into toxic all of a sudden, right? You can sometimes you become more aware. So the more you grow, so remember I said like sometimes the more you change and the more you become aware of yourself, is the more like you'll start to see flaws in the friendship that you didn't see before because you had those rose colored glasses, right? Let me know if that's happened to you where all of a sudden there's been growth and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, like this doesn't seem the same. Like I feel like a different person. Like what I accepted before, I no longer accept now. I'm curious if that's happened to you guys, right? And then maybe you start prioritizing goals. Like you start getting in a hustle state. You may like learn more about your passions, and you may learn about more about your purpose. And then you're like I don't think this is serving me anymore. And so like here's another one. Like so this was and another one. So I like what she said here, and this goes into our next point here. Is she said when I finally started taking care of myself and feeding some of that loving energy into my own heart, right? So you guys have to notice that that's what she said from this thread post. Is it just shows you that is exactly what I said earlier. Is a lot of times when you see yourself pouring in to friendships and you are no longer benefit from it and it becomes one-sided, it usually means something is like the only thing that's not one-sided is your friendship. Like there's something one-sided in you, like in you and how you're treating yourself, right? There's somewhere down the line you stop putting yourself first. Like that's usually a big sign right there, right? And she goes on to say, um giving just a little bit lesser because I was drowning, right? She said I was drowning in comparison. It was suddenly, why haven't you come out to see me? And when I explained it was, you just don't understand what it's like to be a mom. Interesting, right? And you're right, I don't, but I still know what it's like to be a friend. And none of my other mom friends treat me like this. So that's a you problem. And I like how she came to that resolve, right? A lot of people don't. Like a lot of people always think like, oh, well, it's something that I did, right? But a lot of times it's just like people shift. And once you see that, like, and I like how she talked about the comparison because it makes your mind go down this rabbit hole where you're wondering, like, did someone else, like, is someone else occupying that your friend's time? Or what can I do differently? Or what am I doing wrong? Like, that's something that, like, you wonder when someone stops talking to you or someone's not putting the same, like, that friendship, the person's not putting the same effort and energy into that friendship and you have all these questions. And so I relate so much to this woman when she talks about this. Um, yeah, and so welcome if you got in here. I'm just talking about one-sided friendships. That's what we're talking about. Because I feel like it's not talked about enough. And so what I loved about it is I love how she chose herself, where she was like, you know what, I'm gonna choose my own friendships. Okay. Like I'm gonna choose myself. I'm gonna choose to follow things that I enjoy. And here goes on to my next point is the more you know yourself, the less drama you're gonna tolerate. And so what you basically allowed maybe years ago or maybe the start of friendship, Like you're probably not gonna allow now. That's why sometimes also the dynamic change. It could be from the other person too. Where sometimes the dynamic changes, guys. Because the more one sided it gets, and then the more you start growing and doing self development and getting to know yourself more, that's when you start to know the little flaws that you didn't notice. Like that rose colored glass starts to come off. That's exactly. Yeah, exactly. Zeus. It's like you're growing apart, literally. But it happens in a friendship. Like we often talk about it in like a relationship, but like we don't like talk about it from a friendship stand up, like from a friendship point of view. Like it happens there too. And so I'm not putting all the fault on this like other person, right? Because we don't know the other person's side. Like they may be going through something that's rough. But at the same time, it's like this is the question we have to ask is like that person, right, that decided to abandon that friendship, would she have done that? I always have to go here. Would she have done that with her spouse or her partner? And most likely not. And that's the problem I see with friendships. Is like a woman would like so if it was a guy and he was getting distant, they would be begging to be like, why are you distancing yourself? Like, why are you creating this space between us? Like, they would be trying to be close. Like, they'll be wondering what's happening, right? They wouldn't be like, oh well, you don't get it because I'm a woman and I'm your partner. So like, I find it funny when she said like, well, you're not a mom, so you don't get it. Like, that's the excuse. Like moms are not friends anymore. I think that's nuts like that like mindset and I just highly believe like communication is so important like we should not be killing friendships that easily, guys. Like friendships should be something that you feel worthy enough to, and thanks for the hearts, Zeus, you're too kind. Friendships should be worthy enough that you fight for it, like you don't just give up like because your circumstances change. Now I understand things may shift, but like your circumstances changing is not an excuse to stop talking to your friend. Like if you're going through something, talk with it with her. Like I you know what, guys, I'm just tired of the friendships where you're only on your best behavior. Like you're only having friendships like when everything is good, or you're only meeting up when you're in a good mood, or you're only like um you're only saying the things that you feel like you think you should say to keep the friendship going. And I think it's even more powerful if you can actually be real and actually share the things that you're going through with that friend so they understand there's like a little bit more perspective, if that makes sense. um this is so interesting. um and yeah, and it's you're there's a little bit more perspective. um and so there's a little bit more understanding, so no one is left in the air wondering, oh, like what happened, and you're leaving rooms for questions, you're leaving room for space. And you know what I find too is that the more space that you allow, it just gets more and more awkward. And this is what happened with this person when she was like, like for the last 2 years, I probably only saw her once because I think it gets harder. Like the more space you allow in the friendship, it gets harder to get closer because then that person. So basically, I'm reading off of a thread post that I saw where this woman was talking about how it was a one sided friendship. She started off, hey girl, um what do you call it, she started off very close to this person. She was basically there for her baby shower, she was there for her, every milestone. She would give her hundreds of dollars, she would drive to meet her. She was putting in the work with that friendship. Then she said over time, like within 2 years, like it came to a point where she saw her once, and she just got like a coloring book as a gift, and like that was it. Which was nuts to me. And then she talks about her journey where she started to just love herself more and pour into herself. And so I'm just talking about more once. Thanks for asking. Like one sided friendships. Because that's something that we've probably all gone through. That's what I've gone through, and I had to work through it. So we're talking about like just making light on it. So Zeus said, for some friends, I distance from them when I'm going through something because I want to protect their idea of me. Yeah, you see, I know, because it's like you don't want to be a burden, but I think it just, every time I've reached out to a friend that I didn't hear from, and I had to work on that for a very long time, is when I've reached out a friend that I haven't heard from and I start to have these thoughts in my mind where I'm like, oh my God, like maybe something's wrong with me or they don't like me anymore. I learned to take a step back and be like, let me just ask them. Right? So it can go either way. Like they can ask you what's happening. But the point is that when I've asked them, then I'd find out some story that happened. You know what I mean? Like I'd find out something happened. And then there's a bond that happens. It's like you get closer to that person, right? You get this special bond where you just get closer to them every time you share a very hard moment. Like the challenges is what gets you closer. It's like a relationship. Why does it sound like a relationship? It's like you get over that like hump, and then you get to know that person on a different level. But I understand what you're saying though, because I've went through that too, where I've kept it to myself, but then you end up distancing yourself from people, and I've actually regretted that because I was like, there's been times where I regretted it because you feel the distance, and then it feels harder to get close to that person again. Just make sure. Right? I hope that makes sense. But I understand. So like there's no shame here. Because I think like you said, like I think you brought like there's two sides. But I just think like it's like if you're feeling away, obviously you don't share everything. Like obviously you'll have your therapist, whatever. But I think just sharing with the person and keeping them in the loop, like it doesn't make their mind go and wonder, okay, what the heck's happening here? Like, do they really do they still want to be friends? Because we all can't read minds. Like, you can't read my mind. I can't read yours. And you never know, that person may be the one person that can help you. Right? Like, sometimes you need to talk it out with a friend. Like, yes, as a therapist, but you never know what insights they have. And I just think, like, if you have a really good friendship, it's like, we should try our best to, like, stay as close as possible. And, like, when we see a distance, we catch it and then bring it back together. Um, But that's such a good point, though. I love that point. Thanks for sharing that. Um, so yeah, going back into friendships, like getting to know yourself. Friendships get easier when you know yourself, right? Um, and by the way, like even if you get your distance with other people, and you no longer have a great day, Zeus. Nice seeing you. So it's like even if you go into you get distance, you have to remember you can still make friends. Like that's the beauty of it, is you can still make new friends. Like it's not the end of the world. Like what I wish this girl did, the one that talked about how you know like this friendship is two, like she probably spent 2 years moping that she didn't see the friend, mourning that friend that she no longer had a great relationship with. And like imagine if she just took the time to just make new friends. Like I just don't believe that I just don't believe um that we should just depend on one friend and one friend alone. Like I believe that even if you have friends, I feel like you should always be making new friends. Now I understand we don't need 15, 20 friends, but it's like you have to account for the friends that you have to account for the friends that may have a different season where they may be going through something, right? Or things may shift, or they may not want to be your friend anymore. And I think sometimes we don't account for that. So then we spend our time just mourning like that part of that friendship that we don't have anymore. And then we get into a dark place. A very dark place, right? Because we're focused on that one friend, and then you start to feel lonelier and lonelier because you're like, well, like I'm missing that part. Right? Let me know if any of you guys relate to that. Like if you've been in a friendship like that where you got so caught up in that one friendship where it just made you feel like you don't want to make any friends anymore. Right? And I've had moments like that where I'm like, man, I don't even want to have a friend anymore because like like I spent all my time, okay, building this friendship and all this stuff. But I feel like if you like have multiple friends and you're putting your energy in multiple friends, it doesn't feel so bad. Where if that friendship goes from like 70% to 50%, because then you have other friends to lean on. Like anything, like if you put all your eggs in one basket, and then that all the eggs in that break in that one basket, you're done. Right? You're falling to the ground. Like basically don't put your eggs in one basket when it comes to friendships. Separate them. So one friendship go and then also like it's your dignity. It's like you're putting your whole self in a friendship and then they don't reciprocate. You give your all and then all of a sudden, right? They're gone. It makes you feel away. Like just don't put your eggs in one basket. Like separate them like make more friends so that way you're what's that word, you're like distributing in different areas. Okay. I think that's just so important. um and the thing about it is that when friendships get easier you're gonna basically stop chasing acceptance. Like you're gonna stop chasing friendships. Also, when you have multiple friends, it's the same idea as dating. When people say, "Oh, like date multiple guys," because when you focus on one, you catch feeling. So when you're dating multiple friendships, it kind of like you get your dignity back, but also it's like you stop chasing. Like you stop chasing friendships because you're not focusing on that one, being obsessed with that one friendship. um and you stop forcing connections. So like if it's not happening anymore, it's easier for you to let it go because you're like, you know what, like I have friendships from other places, like, right? Like I don't need to chase. It reminds you, I don't need to chase. I don't need to be accepted. I don't need to force my way in to be like forcing a connection because you feel like you're in that scarcity mindset where you're like, oh my god, I have to have that like one friendship work because if I don't, I have no friendship. Like that's another thing. We have to get out of that scarcity mindset. Scarcity, like if you have any inch of scarcity in your life, whether that's financially, personal, relationships, that's the time to notice it. You have to notice that scarcity and get rid of it. Like we should not have scarcity in friendships. People notice it. Like people notice when you're in scarcity. Like when you're yearning for something, people notice, and most of the time it repels people because people don't want to be around people in the energy of scarcity. Because you know what that means? You start being clingy, and then you start being like, "Oh, just please like me," energy. Like no one likes that energy. Right? You want an energy where someone just genuinely admire. I think some of the best friendships is when someone admires you. Like you can tell, like they'll just reach out and you can tell like the person just wants to be around you. Like that's some real stuff. Like being around someone that loves, hey Kate, Kathy, how are you, girl? So like just being around someone, right? Where that just generally just likes you is like that's a win. Like that should be your goal. Like, and when you see that declining, you either have to have a conversation, or that's okay, this friendship may be done because people shift, people change for better reasons. Doesn't mean they're bad people, but things just shift. Another one is like auditioning for friendships. The right friendships, you won't even have to audition for it. Like I said, like if someone admires you, like I find like friendships just flow. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about one-sided friendships. And I was basically basing it on this woman's story on Threads, where basically she, was giving her all in friendships. She was, spending hundreds of dollars, them dollar bills. And then basically it stopped being reciprocated. And when she tried talking about it to her friend pretty much dismissed it, which was unfortunate. And so I'm just talking about, like, people who've been through one sided friendships because they suck. It sucks when that happens. I don't think any of us dream of friendships like becoming one sided. Like it's just it's not a nice feeling. Oh, this is kind of cool. Yeah, it's such a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling. Yeah, it is sad, Kathy. Like, it's sad because, like, we all want our friendships to work, but it sucks if when you start putting your energy in there. And basically, what I was talking about earlier was usually when you start putting all your energy in it, it's like you start losing yourself and you start losing your dignity, right? Which gets you into, you're auditioning for friendships. You start, you start like, tolerating things that you usually wouldn't tolerate, right? And the goal is that, as you get to know yourself, you stop tolerating the things that you used to tolerate. So also maybe on your side where you start to distance yourself because you notice some red flags, right? Um, and you basically stop shrinking yourself. That's another thing too. I think like when you get to know yourself, you stop shrinking yourself. You stop making yourself feel small. Like when you get to the point where you feel like you're begging for like breadcrumbs, that's your sign to run. That is your sign to let go of friendship, right? That is your sign, right? When you start seeing if there's breadcrumbs and you're scraping and begging a person for it, because most of the time, like when you bring it up to that person, they're gonna get defensive. That's the thing with it is that person is gonna get very defensive when you bring it up because that's how we naturally are. Most likely, when you bring it up to them, they're not gonna be having it because they've already been distancing themselves from you, right? So like, why would they otherwise be more compassionate? It's just that's just how it is. Like because we all know like if it was a partner, they would probably be more graceful. But for some reason, when it comes to friendships, people get defensive instead of just hearing the person. It's like they lose respect for you. Hence that shrinking, right? They lose respect for you because you're the one begging. Like I guess no one likes beggars. No one likes someone where they seem desperate and they're begging for the friendship. Just how it is. Feels like dating for some reason. It's like you're begging a guy to talk to you, he's gonna more likely like start repelling and he's gonna get meaner. Right? Where if you're like, you know what, I have other friends. That's why I said have multiple friends. Continue to make new friends. Don't stop. Right? Because they'll respect you more because then they'll be like, oh, this person's doing their own thing. They're not even bothering with me. They may not even care that you're not bothering with them. But I think the fact is just like you not feeling small and making yourself feel small. I think that's so important. Um, And I want to say this last point here is friendship doesn't mean unlimited access. And what I mean by that, basically, like this is gonna be a boundary lesson, guys. Okay, good friends, good friends are always available. So good friends. So people think right that good friends are always available. They're always like good friends should be always there for you no matter what. Good friends always pick up the call. Good friends always say the right words so they don't get on your bad side. Right? They don't want to get on your bad side so they don't stop talking to me. Like that's what people think good friends are. But the reality is that when what a true good friend is, it means that you're setting boundaries. You're learning to say no when you need to say no that you may not be comfortable with. Um and you don't have to always make sure that they're comfortable, right? A true good friend will always look out for themselves, and a true good friend will understand when that friend is looking out for themselves. Soon as you see that friend wants you to be uncomfortable for them, right? And sacrifice your boundaries, like that friendship's off. And then you know what? A good friend should be able to share their friendships Good friends should be able to share their feelings. Sorry, they should be able to feel their communicate and share their true feelings without that friend feeling like, oh my god, this is the end of the world. Like, oh my, like a good friend should be like, oh, like this person expressed her feelings and say, hey, like that's cool. Thank you for sharing. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. Sometimes when you're straight up and you share a boundary, they're ready to run. Most people most people don't stick around when you set a boundary. Most people will stop talking to you. And I think that's nuts. Like there's no shape or form in a friendship you should be I don't believe you should be ending friendships because someone sets a boundary and tells you that they don't like something. All the more that should be a reason like you continue the friendship because you've now gotten to know them and know when to not like cross those lines. Right? So I think that's kind of nuts. That people don't accept someone making boundaries. Because, ma'am, why? Like, why do I have to pretend otherwise? It tells me that you want me to pretend and fake my feelings so then you feel good about yourself. So you don't have to be accountable and so you don't have to change anything. So we have to be careful of like the perception of what people believe friendships should be like friendships are not punching bags. Like friendships are not there for like when things don't work out in your relationships. Okay? Like friendships are a real thing. It's a real relationship. Like it's not something where it's like meant to be like, oh, like this is like like my backup thing for that I go to. Like this is like friendship is for when I want to feel happy only. Like no, like I should be able to have different emotions, right? Like I just think that's it sounds so simple, but it's crazy. Like what I've seen, like when it comes to friendships, like what people's expectations are, and most of the time they expect a friendship to just be all roses. Like they don't expect anything otherwise. So I would say like when it comes to boundaries, it's like it doesn't necessarily it's not supposed to ruin your friendship. It's supposed to actually reveal how healthy it is. So if you're setting a boundary and then that person is not like if you're setting a boundary and that person doesn't accept it, it means that that was not a healthy friendship. Like you know you have a good friendship and healthy one when you can set a clear boundary and it's healthy. Like the friendship still goes on, it's not awkward. You guys hash it out and you're good. So that's why I created, to be honest, that's why I created the build where you are, clarity session. Because the goal is it's for women who want to be their authentic self and not worry about what other people think about themselves, but like, or what they should be. I feel like that's something that we struggle with, right? And basically it's a space where you can share your ideas. I help you with action steps and help you build a life that you want and not what other people want or what you think other people want. No, you're building what you want no matter how what people think, right? No matter like how you may feel like, oh, it doesn't work. Like the goal is to be your authentic self. The goal is to do the idea you've been thinking about that you've been overthinking, right? And that will get you to wake up in the morning, like I said, where you're excited about the day. It will get you to feel good about your life. You know how many people hate their jobs? It's nuts. And you know what I noticed too is like when you don't enjoy like what you're doing, it usually just starts to like ooze out in other areas. Because you're not dealing with that one thing, and so you'll notice like all your other areas will suffer, right? Because you're not happy in one area, right? So then it shows in your friendships, right? Because it always goes back to you learning to know yourself more and like also following that voice that's been telling you to do that thing, do it, right? So yeah, I'm offering those sessions. It's $87. And what I'm willing to do too is offer like a 4 week support. So you can feel free to DM me, or you can go on Instagram and click the link and you'll find it there, the bill where we are, a one-on-one call. And it's just a great way to get to know yourself, get to like actually accomplish your goals, because I have, over 10 years experience in business, and doing that full time. And it'd be a pleasure to help people who want to just build where they are and build a story and start inspiring other people and sharing relatable stories. Um, so yeah, so I want you to leave this call, like this whole life, like just asking yourself, like, what does it mean to be an authentic friend, and what should be your expectation, right? And if it's one sided, what will you do? All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.